This is the Realty Classroom Podcast, episode number 97. Stop doing what everybody else is doing. Are you a real estate agent with an entrepreneurial spirit who wants to turn your job into a business without sacrificing your lifestyle, but you just can't seem to find the right plan to help you get there? Well, then, hey, you are definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom and the host of this podcast. Now, to help you take immediate action to get started in the right direction if you're new to the real estate business, or build a better real estate agent business if you're a veteran agent, I've created a free jumpstart course for you over at freeagentgift.com. Get over there and get your copy of it. All right. So in this episode, I want to cover stop doing what everybody else is doing. By the way, if I sound a little scratchy in this episode, I'm battling through a cold, but you know how it goes. The show must go on. So in the first point here, I want to talk about the dilemma. Are we all sounding alike to the consumer? See, when you get a real estate agent who's new and they come to you for advice and they're trying to figure out, how to get over their own insecurity. So many people that are new, some people are hard chargers and they get over it pretty quickly, but a lot of people are worried. They'd love to even get into real estate, but they're afraid, like, well, how will I be any different? And isn't the business already taken up by all those experts? And quite frankly, you hear that about all businesses, right? There's already enough lawyers. There are enough private equity people. There are enough athletes. There's always room for somebody new. Always. So this dilemma that you can't be unique is how I want to deal with this stop doing what everybody else is doing. Now, it's a weird dilemma because here's why. One of the pieces of advice I know I've given multiple times is if you were new to any business, you should go observe what people who are doing that are doing it successfully. Look at what they're doing. Copy them in detail. Take some notes. Pay attention to what they're doing. So I would absolutely tell you that paying attention to successful people is important. However, what I would throw in today is question everything that they do. Why do they do it that way? And if you can talk with them, I think you might find what I find when I coach top producers. I ask them what they do, and oftentimes they can't even answer me because they've just been doing it in such a transactional way that they're just repeating this behavior. Yes, they're successful, quote unquote, to the extent that they have a lot of sales and there's big GCI attached to it. But don't be deceived by that. Success truly in small business is when you actually build a business. And so for all of you agents that are out there at a brokerage, you say, well, I don't own it. It doesn't matter. You're building your own business. So the desire is to do something uniquely. See, even if the basic body of work is the same, in other words, if you take a seller through the universal steps that I believe exist, you and I are going to do the same thing. So that's the first part to understand. What are the fundamental basics that we take people through, whether they're buying, selling, or if you're in a recruiting mode? What are the basics of building an agent business? So when you get into that, like, how could you not sound all alike, right? There's the other part of that dilemma. I mean, don't we do the same thing? Well, we do. We do. But what I'm talking about more so is if you look at the techniques and the tactics of what everybody does, yikes, we sound very, very much the same, and it's not working that well. In fact, it's really difficult, and it takes a lot of muscle and money and aggravation, and we're muscling through this, and we're perceiving or justifying whatever we're doing. So you're right. This is a difficult situation where trying to be different for the consumer requires some thinking. And you know where I stand on thinking. Thinking is the work of the manager who's putting together a strategic plan that helps them not sound like everybody else. See, you might be following the herd per se because you perceive that's just the only way that things work. But think about all the great innovative companies that have just done something a little bit differently in a universally accepted business. I mean, you think of Amazon to a large extent. What Amazon did was study the suppliers of old, back in the day, Sears and Roebuck, who used to supply to the farm areas all of the goods that they needed, was just a distribution business. And they set up all these warehouses off in the country where they would store things. And that's essentially, to a large extent, what Amazon does. They store things so that they're easily accessible. So it's just that they've leveraged modern technologies and techniques in the same business, but they became wildly unique. In fact, they are the dominant player in online business today. And so you can see that there's always that opportunity if we would just think, are there new tools? Are there new ideas? Is there new information that we can leverage to be unique? Or, stay with me on this one, is there old information that's not being leveraged that we could leverage? I'll get into that. So it's a dilemma because we do sound alike to the consumer. And you know that because you hear the rub on this business all the time is, oh, all you realtors are alike. All real estate agents are alike. You all sound the same, they say when you cold call, right? Well, they're probably not wrong. If we're repeating the same old, and it's not hitting with them, it's not resonating with them, I bet they wouldn't make that complaint if what we called up and talked about or what we mailed or what we marketed was truly useful to them. Stay with that. So it's a dilemma. We're sounding all alike. And the next point here is, but is being unique even possible? And how the heck do you do that? So when I started to reinvent my business after being in it already for 13 years or so, I sat down and I said, what is a unique selling proposition? And now where I'd learned and I'd seen some marketing, I think it got away from us. I think in trying to be unique, we were looking for these wild, bold statements to make that we could just barely back up with all these hoops you had to jump through to get it. And then they became about a seller campaign mostly or a buyer campaign. And were they really about the business? Was it really a unique selling proposition about the way that we do business in its entirety? And it wasn't for me. So sitting still, I started to think, well, what makes us unique is guidance. Now, what I've said before, and I share with all of you there, is that you have these seller courses and these buyer courses, and those are the universal steps. So we're going to go through those the same way. But the way that we guide people is what makes us unique. Each of us individually has a perception of how to really go through those universal steps, or it's the way we speak to people, or it's the implements or the tools that we use to do so. So we begin to inflict all this variety upon the basics. That's unique. It's extremely unique. So you have to believe that being unique is a couple of things. Number one, it's not some esoteric, bizarre statement that you have to make and then try to back up, because that's not universally appealing. It might be wildly unique and it might only appeal to a few people who listen to it. But I believe that you need to be universally appealing and unique. That way, universally, you're appealing to a broader segment of the marketplace whom you need to do business. So, for example, if I choose a marketplace and I want those sellers there and I want those sellers in a particular neighborhood, I do have to at least express to them, look, I have 7 steps to success, but the way that I do it, the how-to, that's unique to me. So you want to meet with me so I can show you my how-to. Now you've set yourself up very well, right? So the next point is how do you do that, though, specifically? Well, you start with you and your service, and you begin to productize it. This is something that I learned how to do by just observing out there what could be simply unique. Not this bizarre esoteric stuff, but what could be simply unique. And I thought to myself, well, everybody's telling me to give away my best stuff for free. So why don't I just productize, follow me, why don't I productize my guidance? Instead of just always speaking it or saying it or selling it, why don't I just productize it? Why don't I put it down in some sort of a format? And I had learned a lot about free reports and their value. So I just put together a major report or magazine that was all about the core points of guiding sellers, guiding buyers, and because I am in the agent business, guiding agents. So we productized it. And so that made me very unique in the way that I was willing to deal with a seller that I was just meeting, a buyer I was just meeting, or an agent I was just meeting. I was willing to give away the productization of how I believe the process works and give it to them. And understanding that what I was giving was unique. I mean, again, here I am saying this and broadcasting this. Any of my competitors could hear it. Anybody could hear it in general. But I'll bet you they don't do it at all, let alone write it the way I do. It's my copywritten words, or they are my copywritten words. And so I told you I was going to choke through this one, but I'll get there. So the point is, when you look at that, it was unique that I took the time, I did the thinking on what I thought could be super valuable to them. Instead of just talking about random items of value, I thought about the core piece of value, that item, and I productized it. I started to give it away. And so that really became in alignment with my core philosophy. So a lot of you talk about core principles, core values. Well, I have one core tagline: to be a person for others. And in any business endeavor, that's my primary focus. So how could I live authentically in that business if I didn't productize my guidance on what to do and give it to sellers? What to do, give it to buyers. What to do, give it to agents. See, because I am a firm believer in the law of reciprocity. You can call it the law of attraction. I like the law of reciprocity. If I give you something that's truly of value because you have the context of needing that thing, you're more likely to at least engage me in some tacit relationship where I have an expression where I can, a chance to express myself to help you more. And you become a prospect the right way. Not I muscled you into something. I kept calling you until you relented. I kept talking at you, at you in a listing presentation until you raised the white flag. And I've been there. I've done all those things incorrectly. So what I would recommend is, in trying to be unique, start with you and your service and form some sort of productization of it. That's an example. You know, when people ask you, can you send me some information? Absolutely, I can now. I'm going to send a cover letter. I'm going to send some properties and pictures of details if that's relevant. And I'm going to throw in my strategy, and that's going to land on their desk with a thud. And they're going to know I'm unique and different, that I'm willing to give away my best stuff for free simply to win my way into a better conversation, not even get the business yet. That's unique. So that's a way or an example of how to do that. By the way, you could follow the same formula, and you and I aren't going to be the same. So excuse me, even if I gave you my information and you slapped on your pictures and your detailed information, the way you present it, the way you deliver it, the way you talk about it, the way you take people through the process, it's going to be different. So we're unique. But let's start by just paying attention to the fact that we're trying to serve a consumer. And that's what's really, really, really lost here. So the last point in this podcast is, when you're giving it, though, I want to make a clear point here. I haven't lost my mind and said, give away all your best stuff for free to be unique and go broke doing it. That's not what I'm talking about. These are real business principles. The law of reciprocity is actually a real business principle. And it's not nefarious, and it's not some bait and switch, not some trick. Like, you could say, look, I'm going to give you this stuff because I think there's something in it for you for real. There's a WIFM, and it makes me unique that I'm willing to give it to you because I know a lot of my competitors are even afraid to talk like this. Oh my gosh, how could I do that? They might give it to another agent when they interview with them. They might do it themselves. So what? So what? I'm so detached from the outcome and believing that just doesn't happen that often. That's sort of the black moon event, right? That maybe somewhere down the line that bad things happen and they take your information, they give it to somebody else, and they use it. Hey, you know what I say? If that's the way they thought and it helped them all, God bless you. Knock yourself out. I'm glad I could help in any kind of way. I leave a little bit of a better footprint in the world of real estate and henceforth the world, and I still served my mantra of being a person for others. I mean, I honestly mean that. I'm not making this up. I'm not giving you some cutesy little line. This is the way it is, man. When they grind me up and sprinkle me in a little bit in the ocean and a little bit up on the hills of the Rockies, I could be fulfilled. And that's what this is really about, to live authentically. But when you give strategically and intentionally, you know that the worst thing that could happen, I just said, is you leave a good footprint. But the best thing that could happen is somebody gives back to you. And that's strategic giving in the context of a business. Look, and I'm not talking charity here. I know I'm not running a charity, and neither are you. I mean, if you want to be a charitable giver, then that's like totally different. If you want to be an anonymous giver to a charity, that's even the best. That's the highest calling. To quietly give, don't ask for any name, any recognition, that's the best. It's in the Bible. I like that one, right? That's a tough one to do because everybody wants to know, why I counted, I mattered. But that's the point in business. Give it and expect that that's going to win you the opportunity to receive at least some time back, okay? And I'm going to say this, sorry about all this coughing, but I promise you, the show goes on here at the TRC because ain't nobody coming from me, and I'm the only voice here. So we're going to fight through it. I want to go back and hit these points again, though, okay? Number one, The idea here is stop doing what everybody else is doing. And specifically what that means is, like, if everybody's cold calling, saying the same thing, trying to muscle a consumer to get in their houses, you're going to get tired. They're going to get sick of all of us. Don't do that. So when we applied these techniques, for example, to something like expireds, we couldn't believe the result was so good. Okay? So this stuff works in the real world. So the dilemma is that we're all sounding alike to the consumer, and if you hear them saying that, let's say you're talking to them in open house and they're like, yawn, or you're talking to them on the phone, they're like, click, that's an indication you sound like everybody else. And the question is being unique even possible? Absolutely. Well, how do you get there? Well, think about you and your service as unique and productize that guidance. Once that's all productized, give it away strategically, and you will win with that influx of potential relationships. You still have to do all the other work with follow-up and continue to give more insightful. You go from information to more insight until finally there's no competition. Trust me, there's not. All right, I want to summarize this in a key point. It is indeed quite possible and rather easy to be unique in a world where most salespeople are overly aggressively asking for an opportunity. Give me, before ever considering the power and unique positioning of truly giving first, right? They want to just take from you, and nobody's giving. How easy is it to be unique in a world that is dominated like that? By the way, I'll give you a quick pragmatic example. On LinkedIn, because I post a lot of free content and I give it away and I live authentically there, I get more connect requests than I ever did before. I cannot believe how many people just come into the messenger and start soliciting me, especially for things I have no need for. Capital expenditure. I don't have any equipment other than the camera and the microphone here. I don't have some trucks. It's bizarre. So again, I'm going to tell you, if that's what everybody else is doing, try being authentically a giver, all right? Remember, you can take immediate action and get started in the right direction with our free simple business plan over at freeagentgift.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so that you don't miss out on any of these insights each time we upload an episode. We also broadcast our live, whoops, that's the wrong one. Nope, that is the right one. We also broadcast our live sales training calls on Facebook and YouTube every Friday at 1 EDT. So remember, turn on those page and channel notifications. I know sometimes it's tricky, but just go to all these channels, look for The Realty Classroom, so you won't miss out when you click on those reminders when we go live. I give away more stuff. I'll go deeper with you if you're paying attention to when I'm live. We'd also appreciate it if you would share our content with other entrepreneurial real estate agents just like you, so they also get the help that they need. Hey, thanks for listening. Remember what I always say when I part ways with you on these episodes. Nobody is coming for you. So go get to work on your own business. And thanks for tolerating the cough today. See you in the next episode.